thankful for her waving stories. Hold on to the lifetime we won't get back. I know these rivers carry on. People tend to stick to you after time. Places tend to do the same as we do. This river carries on and on.
Hello and welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jake LaMore, and as this episode is coming out, this coming weekend is a very special event in Kankakee County, and an event that's been going on for several years. And I remember going to it as a kid. I was probably about 10 years old, which was a really long time ago. But this Sunday, December 5th, the Riverview Historic District in Kankakee is having their annual house walk. And I remember my grandparents taking me there when I was about 10 years old. And I thought it was such a cool thing, even at that age, just seeing all of these historic houses. And with us today, from the Historic District, is Nina Piolatto. And actually, June, is it June Boisvert?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
That's something I'm going to ask you about, too. And you probably already know what I'm going to ask you about your last name. And then, Joan, I'm sorry, I forgot to catch your last name.
Joan Germano.
Germano. With a G?
With a G.
Okay, wonderful. It is so wonderful to have all of you ladies here. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, got to have the applause. There's a big studio audience in my tiny, tiny basement in this, recording space. But thank you for taking the time. Thank you, Nina, for setting this up. It was such a blast from the past seeing you at Halloween downtown. I can't even remember. That was probably the first time I'd seen you in so long. And it was
20 years.
It was so great to catch up. So backtrack, Nina and I are both originally from Manteno. Our families grew up together. Mm-hmm. My oldest brother, Josh, and yourself were in the same class. And then, your sister, Sarah, and I were in the same class. So it was just like, we knew each other for a long time. And so fast forward all these years, you moved to Kankakee, you wind up in the Riverview Historic District, and you sent me an email saying, hey, I don't know if you'd be interested in this or not, but we've got our annual house walk coming up, and I'm like, yeah, let's talk about this, so thank you for reaching out.
Yeah, I'm really happy it worked out.
Oh, good. It's just, that's one of my favorite things about doing this podcast is when I just hear from either brand new people or people I haven't talked to or seen in years, and they're like, hey, I've got this thing. Would you want to do something about it or do something with it? So let's get to kind of the beginning of the making of the Riverview Historic District. I know, if I'm not mistaken, it starts with Emery Cobb, right? Sort of?
Correct. It does. It does start with Emery Cobb, yes. Yes, he was a very important man in the city of Kankakee. He developed many things, and he went on to he went with who was he with? Developed the neighborhood.
He sold a lot of tracts, didn't he?
Yes, and
he ended up with this huge plot there by the river around Cobb Park, and ended up selling lots of lots for development.
Correct. And back at the turn of the century, those lots turned into, the homeowners were the movers and the shakers typically of the area. They had developed businesses. They were doctors. They were lawyers. They were a lot of influential people. And So it was really the city of Kankakee's first real, true neighborhood. And Cobb Park, the city park, was a big part of that along the river. And still, that's a major influence for us,
yes.
currently.
It's got one of the most beautiful views, historic views in the whole city, the whole county of Cobb Park, particularly looking at the tower at Shapiro.
Yes.
That's just such an iconic. It's kind of like how the courthouse is a iconic view of downtown. Well, outside of downtown, it's that view of Cobb Park and the Shapiro Tower in the background.
I mean, we have a wonderful neighborhood with all those wonderful older houses, but then to have Cobb Park, the river, I mean, we kind of got it all down there. It's kind of nice. Yeah.
Right. And not that I'm not going to deep dive into this, but did it originally start with the Riverview Hotel? That was long before the houses were even dreamt of, correct? Or was that all happening around the same time?
No, the hotel was there first, and it brought many people from the city of Chicago, from all outlying areas, and they would come here for a summer destination. And it was a huge area. And then it was only there for about 10 years, unfortunately. And when it burned, that's when it was all divided up into the properties, into land. So
and that's pretty much where the historic district begins.
Correct. That's correct. So in 1986, it was officially designated and listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And we have 164 structures that are in our historic district.
Wow.
So
that's a lot.
It is a lot.
I didn't realize it was that many. I thought it would be like, there's 50.
Yeah, no.
Or maybe, and are they all homes or?
No. Well, we have some that are duplexes. We do have a vintage apartment building.
True.
We have the Frank Lloyd Wright house, which is currently a museum. So it's mostly homes.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about. Now I'm wondering where that apartment building is. I don't know if I've ever noticed it.
Well, on Harrison Avenue, it would be the block before the 700 block. It's right 600 block. Yes, it's a Spanish brick kind of apartment building. It looks very much the same as it did when it was built. It has a same front facade, and that's a major thing for the historic district. So the structures need to keep the same facade, the front facing the street, to continue being historic. Through the years, we have had some homes that have been, sided, or maybe porches taken off. Things have been changed, but we try and encourage, as an organization, people to remain, historic and as much as original as possible.
And I would imagine, what's the reasoning for the change? Is it? I'm sure it has to do with money. It all comes back to money, right? I mean,
right. Well, maintenance, yeah. And a lot of times people get older, and it's difficult for them to maintain, to paint every couple of years. We actually we only paint our house one side at a time, so we never have painted the whole thing at one year.
So are you painting every single year?
Well, no, not actually. No,
because
this year we didn't do a side, so we're still good. We're still good.
I was going to say, because if you're doing one side a year, then by the time
it's almost it almost works out to be that way.
Yeah, maybe there's a 1 or 2 year gap before you start again.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Well, at least you got a plan, and you don't have to. It's a lot worse when you're maintaining thing, or let's say you're a business owner and you just kind of let everything slip away. Then all of a sudden, however many years later, you got to revamp the whole thing, and it's going to be $100,000. You're like, what? Like, I don't have that.
Right.
So, what classifies a home as historic besides a front? What has classified these homes as historic homes?
I think the neighborhood was all built after that hotel burned. You've got Cobb selling those things off. So you have this period that lasted from early 1900s to like 1930. So you have an historic period right there. In the application to the historic district, there were categories. You could either be architecturally significant, so you would have a defined thing. Obviously, the Frank Lloyd Wright House defines that. You could also have one that's historical, so you have the LaCour House or the Cobb House, someone that was significant in Kankakee's history. And then you also have contributing structures. They're not necessarily marvelous examples of the architecture, but they were built at the same time. So you have some craftsmen, you've got some basic four squares, you have prairie with four square, you have all those different kind of things. But it was built in that period up until 1930.
So it's just sometimes it's the style of the house is kind of like like you said, like for example, a craftsman.
Mm-hmm.
That style of house was like invented in that period, pretty much?
I think the Craftsman's is all part of that arts and crafts movement, which Frank Lloyd Wright and his Prairie was categories in that time, as are the Craftsmen.
Yeah.
We have a Craftsman on the walk this year, and it's adorable. It's just, you look on the outside and you think, oh, that's a cute little house, until you get inside and you see this marvelous rafters and room to grow and do those kind of things.
I love the houses that surprise you like that. They look so simple on the outside. And not that the simple looks bad. Of course, it looks nice. And then you get in the inside and it just kind of slaps you in the face with all the detail.
Yeah.
And the craftsmanship.
And the craftsmanship and the other part of the craftsman is all the wood details that they would do. And inside this house that's on the walk this year, there's only been, the owner now is the third owner.
Wow.
So it was built in 10, 20, before 1930.
Yeah, right, before, right.
So what's exciting about them is that they have a lot of the previous owners had shared all their history and pictures. And I guess that the granddaughter of the builder may be coming to the house walk. So the current owner is just so excited to receive them.
The fact that they're still alive is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I would imagine they must be, up there in years.
Yes.
So that's going to be quite an experience for them to come and see a house that they helped build.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So you said 1986 was when it was marked historic. Is that actually when the organization began, or did?
No, it was prior. It was prior to that, because they worked on establishing. There was a lot of work that goes into establishing a historic district. There's surveys. Each home has to be surveyed. So you have to have the history of the home. You have to have the architectural description. And so if you do that times 164, I think the actual application was like 600 pages or something crazy. Yeah. So, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
Oh no,
The organization.
I was just asking when the Riverview Historic District was actually like established, saying, "Hey, there's something very special here. Let's."
I think it was maybe a year. A year or two prior.
I think so.
Yeah. Yes, and it was under the direction of Joanne Schwade and Mary Benoit.
Chris Bolin. I think Don Delorier was hanging out with them. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a group. There was a big group combined effort. Those were the head of it. But then they had a lot of helpers. It took a lot of people to do all of the research.
Yeah, it would take a very long time. So what are I should have asked this right in the beginning, but what are each of your roles in the historic district?
Well, I'm president of the organization, kind of flunky for everything else, that gets to be done. June is our house walk chairman, so she's organizing and making sure. Nina is new to our board, and we are so grateful to have Nina, because we're kind of the old guard, and we need that new guard in there, because technologically she can say, we'll do this, Joan, and we could do that, and sure, we could do a survey. I'm like, oh, good, I don't know how to do that. So you push all those buttons, and you make all those tags, and so it's been fun.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, she's great. And obviously that's, this podcast, for example, that's how this came about too. So what I was wondering is, I know Nina's house is not on the walk, right? Or is it on the walk?
Oh no, mine is.
Okay.
Well, decades away from being ready for a walk.
Not this year. Maybe next year.
Oh,
Not
the
decades.
pressure is on.
5-year plan.
Okay, all right. We'll work with it.
But I was wondering if June or Joan, either of your houses, were on the walk.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we've been recruited.
Yeah,
but not this year.
No,
Previous
not
years.
this year.
Okay,
Previous years.
I mean, you've got 164 properties, and I know not all of them are shown, but I'm sure there's still has to be a good chunk that are rotated in and out.
We've had ours on twice.
Okay.
So yeah, but not like it's been a big time gap between the first time and the second time.
And I suppose it's so you get the same people coming back so they can see different homes.
True.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes there's a mix, like your house was on with different houses. So, as you go through, there's a whole feel of the walk itself. Like we have all those different styles this year. And I think our house was back in 2000. So I shouldn't say that. I'm going to be come up for renewal here. It's kind of scary.
Here it is. We're gonna. This is recorded intact. That Joan's house is gonna be. It's gonna be on for the next year. But what are your houses? What is your house like?
Okay, so my house is a 4-square. It's big old house on the corner, a lot and a half. It took me over 3 hours to rake all the leaves today. It was pretty amazing. But but what's interesting is when my husband and I were looking for houses back in 1988, and he said, I think we've got enough in the bank. Let's go look for a house. And I said, oh no, this is where we will live. I want to live in the historic district. I'm a native of Kankakee. And that neighborhood to me was always fascinating. It was the best place to go trick-or-treating. They had the best candy.
Probably the biggest candy, too.
Oh, yeah. You knew the houses that gave out the big candy bars because you circled back twice,
Yep.
And then, so when my husband and I were looking, I said, well, we need to go look at our house that was on the market. And he goes, Joan, that house is huge. It's 4 bedrooms, big house. But I knew that house because it was my best friend in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that lived in that house. So I had all these great memories of sleepovers, playing dolls on the porch. When my best friend got married, she got married in the back room. We walked down the stairs. We saw ourselves in the big mirror.
Wow.
I said, we gotta go look at this house. My husband's like, yeah, it's a cool house. And so, but he's like, but I said, oh, but honey, if we got this house, you'd only have to move me out one more time and that would be in a box. So, So
Did you get that in writing? Did you sign a contract?
No, we didn't. But so, it's memories of, especially as a Kankakee native, that neighborhood. Always going down to Cobb Park, passing all those houses. So I said, we got to have an address here in the historic district.
So when you bought the house, it wasn't from your family's or your best friend's family then? It was someone else that had owned it at that time?
Correct. There was there was an owner in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then how about you, June? Describe your house.
My house is a large white Queen Anne that was built in 1910. And when my husband and I were high school sweethearts, and we used to ride bicycles down, through the neighborhood. And when we got married, we wanted a house down there, but we couldn't afford it. But we bought a brand new ranch in Bourbonnais that we could afford. And then we lived there for a couple of years and had a daughter. And my husband was on a service call, and I went with them for the ride. And so I'm sitting in, his truck. He's going to do his job, and there's this big, sad white house across the street from where he's parked. And it's funny, there was a for sale sign, and then in the Daily Journal the next weekend, it was going to be open housed. Well, we have to go see this house because I sat waiting for you doing this job. So we have to go walk through. I want to see what it looks like. Well, that was the end of that. I'm not allowed to go to open houses anymore. So we bought the house. We sold our house in Bourbonnais, and we love it. We've loved it ever since. And the same as Joan, we're not going anywhere. There's nowhere else I would live.
Yeah. Do you have a son too, right?
No, we have one
Just
daughter.
a daughter. Okay,
Yep.
so maybe it's because I went to school with some Beauverts.
Okay, was it Logan?
and
Logan's our nephew. And
Oh.
Jordan, his sister, is our niece.
Okay, it was Jordan. Yeah, I was going to say it was Jordan and Logan. I remember them.
Okay, so my husband's older brother, Tom, that's his children.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I still see. That's what was bugging me this whole time. I'm like, I wonder if she's related to Jordan and Logan.
Yeah,
so.
there's not a lot of Beauverts, and actually, it's a French name, and actually, some people say Boisvert, and it's translated to Greenwood, and I live on Greenwood, so that's like this is my house. This is where I belong to be.
That's so fitting.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, it really does. That's incredible.
So, thanks.
You're welcome. And I don't know if Nina wants to talk about her historic home.
Oh, sure. So my home is one of the, I guess, later homes to the historic district because it was built in 1934, I believe. And it's kind of a Tudor style home. It's got a stone facade and some half timbering on the upper portion. And we just love it. And, we feel like we have the best view in the historic district because we get that view of Cobb Park and the river and, the trees across with the tower at Shapiro and stuff. So,
man. So you've got the best. Yeah.
I would not even trade that, I don't think, for a riverfront property because I love it.
I might be inviting myself over for dinner.
Just
so you know.
Totally.
I'll bring the wine or something.
Sounds good.
I'll pay my way in. I promise.
Okay. Sounds good.
Or I bet like a bonfire would be, if that's even allowed. I don't know if those are allowed in Kankakee or not, but
in your backyard.
In your backyard, I was going to say that would be I bet that's a picture perfect view. At night if you're having a bonfire in your backyard, I would imagine. Anyway. But we'll get back. Let's get to the house walk now. So this is this Sunday, December 5th. What are some of the houses that are going to be shown?
Well, as Joan was saying, we have the Grassos, and it's a 1920 craftsman. We have Dave and Anya Barron. Alderman Dave Barron of the 2nd Ward.
Wonderful guy.
Yes, a 1913 Prairie with colonial details. That house is lovely. It's a huge brick house, and they have their own spin on it. It's historic with a contemporary edge. It's a really nicely laid out home. We have Rob and Julie Rivera, which is an English tutor, 1928 English tutor, and that's actually on the river. It's a lovely, lovely home, and they have wonderful collections. And we have a former Carriage House, which was converted to a home in 1919, which is on the river, and that's owned by Brian and Sherry Haug, and that's an interesting twist. That's not your normal home.
Yeah, I would imagine not if it was a carriage house.
Right.
That sounds really neat.
Right. And then also we have a 1910 Colonial Revival. Diana Crawley, she's newer to the neighborhood, and she's an artist. She truly is an artist. So that's interesting.
The Crawley name, that I feel like that fits right in because that comes from. I always think of Downton Abbey. Does anyone watch Downton Abbey? Am I the only one? No, you've never watched Downton Abbey. The name Crawley is.
Oh, sure.
Is in there.
I guess I didn't make that connection.
Yeah,
there you go.
I feel like it's only fitting that someone with that last name would live in the historic district, And but what are some of the coolest stories that come out of the Riverview Historic District that are attached to some of these homes, like some of the people that originally built them? Obviously Emery Cobb, that's obviously one of the people to come out of this neighborhood, but I know he's not the only one.
This is when we need Jack Lacey. So there's so many other names, from Cobb to LaCour, as I mentioned before.
What do the LaCours do? Well,
the LaCours at one were in were merchants, and then they had clothing business. I think they started off with a men's store. But for years, I mean, LaCour's was still around when I was a young person, but they became like the women's dress shop in Kankakee, downtown Kankakee. I want to go back to the Carriage House, and there's an interesting bit about that. That Carriage House was actually moved, and originally it was with another group of homes at a split in the Historic District next to that vintage apartment building. But they moved this Carriage House, rotated it 90 degrees so they could get the best view of the river, and then it was Mr. Volkman that turned this into a new home for his new bride. So how do you rotate a home 90 degrees in early 1900s? I'm kind of amazed. How do we do this?
My grandfather has pictures of, I don't know if it's someone from his family, but he's got pictures from probably about that same time period of someone moving a house from, one town to the next. It just blows my mind. It's funny how we live in a day and age where we have more than enough like amazing technology and equipment to move houses a lot easier, yet it doesn't happen like it used to happen.
How about it?
Like that was just a normal thing. They used to do that all the time, just move houses. But now it's like it's a very rare thing.
So do they move it with a tractor?
If I remember, there were, I don't know if there were like timbers or something underneath, and there had to have been a tractor involved. It's been a while since I've seen these pictures.
Yoke up the oxen. I mean, how did they do this?
That's something I'm going to have to quiz him on, and actually, better yet, I will get those pictures from him because I know he's still, I know he still has them. But how. It's just, I just can't imagine how much work that was to do in 1910. And like I said, I think it's hilarious that they don't really bother doing that anymore, even though we've got plenty of technology to make that moving easier. So the Carriage House, was that originally associated with that apartment building then, or?
It was the two other houses that are
north of the apartment building.
North of the apartment building.
Okay.
So they split that house, correct?
Yes.
And they made that two different residences.
And then it dawned on me, isn't there one of the historic homes was owned by the Volkmans or built by the Volkmans?
Well, this Carriage House was a Volkman, but there is a Volkman home on Chicago that Mrs. Barbara Volkman is still there.
Oh, okay. Wonderful.
Yes.
I did not realize
and they were the jewelers?
Yeah, that's the family I was thinking of. I didn't realize there was a family that's still there. I thought maybe the home had been sold by now. No. Okay. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So if someone is hearing this before December 5th, I know you have to get tickets for this walk. And where do they get those? And what's the cost involved?
It's $20 per person, and our tickets are being sold at local florists. This year, our vendors are Bussy and Reek on West Court Street, Love Christian Center on Schuyler in downtown Kankakee, the Flower Shop on North Hobby in Kankakee, Moon Cookie Gallery on South Schuyler in downtown Kankakee, the Kankakee County Museum on South 8th, the Tholin's Garden Center in Bourbonnais, Bada Bloom Flower Shop in Bourbonnais, and Joy's Hallmark in Meadowview Shopping Center. So $20 each. And the day of, there will be $25 each. And then those are only available at the actual trolley barn, which is north of the depot.
And you can also get them online. If you go to our website, riverviewhistoricdistrict.org, you can get them online also.
Okay, perfect. So where does the walk start?
At the trolley barn.
It does start at the trolley barn.
Yes.
Okay, and then goes on from there. So obviously everyone's going to make sgoing to make sure they dress warm. I assume it'll be cold, but it's been cold lately. So
we probably will have a warm up by then. It'll be good. It's going to be dry and warm.
Absolutely.
anything else that people need to know to be prepared for the house walk? I mean, I know each stop, is the owner or someone's going to be there to kind of tell them more of the story about the building of the house and the unique pieces of it, right?
Correct.
So
with your ticket brochure, you'll get a pair of booties. So wear comfortable shoes that you can slip a covering over your shoes when you go through the homes.
I remember that from when I went. I remember having to put these booties on my shoes. I'm like, man, this is hard.
We'll try to have chairs at the fronts and the backs of the home so that you can get your little foot coverings on and off.
Right.
But no, we'll have docents at all of the homes, and they'll give you a little information about the homes and maybe some points of interest in the home. Works of art, historical pieces. Architecture.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget your mask to match your booties.
Are the booties what? They're usually blue or something.
Blue.
Or
Yes,
so everyone's going to be wearing blue masks.
Yes.
Hey, that whatever works. So it's just such a treasure to have this historic district in Kankakee. Not every town has an official historic district. I mean, some towns have historic homes, but not a dedicated district.
We feel very honored to have this, and this is our major fundraiser. And last year, we weren't able to have it, and we do a number of different things with the money that's raised. I don't know. Do you want to go into that?
Yeah, no, I kind of wondered. I didn't know if the money was used to help the homes in the neighborhood to keep up with their, or if that was left up to the owner.
No, that's more of the homeowner.
Okay, I just wasn't sure.
No, we do a lot of beautification things in the neighborhood, more neighborhood kind of things.
Okay.
And we do some joint efforts also. One of the huge things that happened was in 1995 was our historic lighting throughout the neighborhood. It was a joint project between the city of Kankakee and the historic district, and it was a grant, and we won the grant, and it was awarded. And it was a huge project. And then since then, the city had gone on and done historic lighting further north of us in another area of, I think, the second ward.
In the Coach Light District?
Yes, but ours was the original one. And we've done a historic district sign in Cobb Park. We've gone jointly with the Park District a number of years ago to do the walking path around Cobb Park. We've donated books to the library on history and architecture. We used to participate in Christmas in April when that used to take place. We would give a donation, plus we provided volunteers. We've given money to local schools.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Oh, we have the gazebo. I don't know if anyone knows the gazebo in Cobb Park is the David Letterman Gazebo.
Is there still one
It's
gazebo
still
left?
one. Yes, there's one gazebo.
I wasn't sure if they had taken down both of them or just one of them. It was just the one they sent back to David in the form of a rocking chair.
Correct.
Okay.
We maintain the one in Cobb Park, so we paint it. We do plantings around it.
I've got a picture of myself from prom with my prom date, and in front of that gazebo, I'm almost positive, like everybody else.
Yes,
yes,
it's a destination for pictures. Yeah.
Well, we'll keep it up for you, so you can go back.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm going to have to dig up that picture now and show it to everybody so they can laugh.
We've done banners throughout the neighborhood to kind of help designate the boundaries of the historic district. We do an annual Easter egg hunt for the kids of the neighborhood. We do a 4th of July bike parade for the kids. We do annual garage and yard sales in July. We've put together a nice walking tour brochure. Joan headed that up.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. Of course, the anchor of our historic district is the Bradley House. And, when I was there volunteering, I would see these people come from far and away and whatever, and they'd come in, they're like, this is great, so now what else do we do? And I was like, oh my goodness. So we did this walking tour brochure, and it's truly walkable, but it's really cool to see from Frank Lloyd Wright. When you see his thing, because when you look out those windows of Frank Lloyd Wright, you see some of those Queen Anne's, and you see this different architecture at the time, and you see what the neighborhood looked like before Frank showed up with this brand new idea. So it's kind of nice. So that was the inspiration to do the walk, but it's just been fun for all of us to appreciate our neighborhood. You kind of forget what you're living in sometimes. So there's like 12 houses on the tour that you can walk through. So, yeah.
It's and it's always hard to sometimes it's hard to go from one to the next because you're like, oh, this one's so cool. I just want to keep looking around and then but you want to go to the next one. So thank you. Is there anything else that we needed to cover?
We brought you some goodies.
You brought me some goodies?
We brought you some goodies. One,
we didn't have to do that.
One is the infamous, this is our 5K box. This was a fun project that we did in the spring, in May. Our friend, Bill Yanka, helped come up with this picture-perfect 5K.
Oh, Bill is wonderful.
Yeah. But there's... in here are some snacks, and there's also some fun, another way to walk through our neighborhood, and it's kind of some trivia answers questions. You'll get to see that Carriage House that we talked about. You'll see the two houses that were split, so all these different things. And we also would love you to be our guest at the house walk. So you get to put on those blue booties one more time and come join us. So that's all in there for you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you for having us.
Oh, no, that's so sweet. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. I'm seriously just talking about this. I'm amped and excited to see these homes. And like I said,
we are too. So we hope. And we missed it last year. So we're all excited.
Yeah.
And the homeowners have been very, very generous to open up their homes. So
yeah, because I just remember them really decking them out. Mm-hmm. It's not just like you don't walk into someone's home and it's like a mess. Like it's you're walking into a magazine. That's really what it looks like, a magazine shoot. Everything's just perfect. It's like a realtor is selling the home almost.
Absolutely.
It's that perfect. So thank you so much. That's so sweet of you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Anything else? What is the website? Riverview Historic District?
.org.
Okay. So people can go there, get more information.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool is if for some reason they're not able to make the house walk, they've got that like that walking brochure that you were talking about, and maybe they won't be able to see the homes, but they can walk through the neighborhood and they can get a flavor
of everything that's there.
Right. And then hopefully the next year they can, attend the house walk. Are there any other house walk related events that happen throughout the year? Or is it just this one in December?
It's just this one in December.
Okay. That makes it extra special then.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So Joan, June, Nina, thank you all for being here, and thank you for the gifts. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
See you December 5th.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
Good.
This Sunday. All right, that concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake LaMore. You can catch up on previous episodes of the podcast at kankakeepodcast.com or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. And follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is at Kankakee Podcast. Also, if you want to reach out to me, anything podcast related, or you have any questions or have an idea to pitch to me, a guest idea, whatever it is, you can find a contact form at Kankakee Podcast as well. Thank you so much for listening. Our theme song is by Lupe Carroll.
People tend to stick to you after time. Places tend to do the same as we do.